Imagine waking up one morning and the internet you knew, the one you grew up searching, clicking, reading, exploring, is just gone. Not broken, not hacked, just quietly, deliberately, surgically replaced. And the company responsible? The same one that built it in the first place. That is not a sci-fi plot. That is not some conspiracy theory from a dark corner of the internet. That is exactly what happened on May 19th, 2026, the day Google walked onto a stage in Mountain View, California, smiled at the cameras, and announced what millions of people are now calling the most hated moment in the company's entire history. And here is the thing that makes this so unsettling. Google didn't do anything illegal. They didn't lie. They didn't hide it. They announced it proudly on a live stream in front of the entire world. And that might be the most chilling part of all. So what exactly did they announce? Why are publishers, creators, bloggers, journalists, and everyday users absolutely furious? And what does this mean for the internet you use every single day? Let's break it all down, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. For over 2 decades, Google search worked the same way. You had a question, you typed it in, Google gave you a list of links, and you clicked one. Simple, elegant, and honestly, kind of beautiful in its simplicity. That system connected billions of people to billions of websites. It built entire industries. It made millionaires out of bloggers. It funded journalism. It gave small businesses a fighting chance against giant corporations. The whole modern web economy, every news site, every review blog, every how-to article you've ever read, was built on one simple assumption: that Google would send you somewhere. That assumption died on May 19th, 2026. At Google I/O 2026, Elizabeth Reed, Google's vice president of search, walked on stage and said something that sent shockwaves through the entire digital world. She called it the biggest upgrade to our search box in over 25 years. But what she was really announcing, what she was really telling the world, is that Google no longer wants to send you anywhere. Google wants to be the destination. Google wants to be the answer. Google wants to be the entire internet, and they have the technology to pull it off. Here is what the new Google search actually does. Instead of showing you 10 blue links when you ask a question, it now generates a full AI-powered answer, right there on the page. Long, detailed conversational answers. Answers that pull from dozens of websites, summarize their content, give you the key information, and present it in a clean, polished format. No clicking required, no visiting a website, no giving traffic to the people who actually wrote the content. Just Google, sitting in the middle, serving you everything while the original sources get absolutely nothing. They call it AI mode. And as of Google I/O 2026, it has already crossed 1 billion monthly users. 1 billion. It launched barely a year ago. That makes it one of the fastest growing consumer products in the history of technology, and that number is only going to climb. But AI mode is just the beginning, because Google didn't stop there, not even close. They also announced what they are calling information agents. Think about this carefully, because this is where things get truly alarming. An information agent is a piece of AI that you set up inside Google search, and it then goes out onto the internet on your behalf, continuously around the clock, scanning websites, monitoring listings, tracking prices, watching for news, and reporting back to you with a summary. You never have to search again. You never have to click again. You never have to visit another website again. Looking for an apartment? Set up an agent. It will scan every rental listing on every real estate platform 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and notify you the moment something matches your criteria. You will never need to visit Zillow or Rightmove or any other platform. Your Google agent handles it all. Following a news story? Set up an agent. It will monitor every publication covering that topic and distill the key updates into a clean briefing delivered straight to you. You will never need to click on a news article again. Interested in sneaker drops, concert tickets, sports scores, stock prices, travel deals? Google has an agent for all of it, a tireless, invisible digital assistant that crawls the entire web so you never have to. This sounds amazing from a user perspective. It genuinely does. Faster, more convenient, less noise. But pull back the curtain and look at what is actually happening here, and the picture becomes deeply disturbing. Every single website that Google's agents are crawling, every rental listing, every news article, every product page, every blog post, those websites have human beings behind them. Writers, photographers, developers, business owners, real people who spent real time creating real content. And for years, the deal was simple. You create good content, Google sends people to your site, you get traffic, you show ads, you earn revenue, you keep creating. A virtuous cycle that sustained the entire open web. Google's new system destroys that cycle completely. The data is not speculative. It is already devastating. Zero-click searches, meaning searches where a user gets their answer from Google without clicking on a single link, now account for 60% of all Google queries. 60%. And for news-related searches, that number jumps to 69%. That means nearly 7 out of 10 people who search for news on Google never visit a news website. They just read Google's AI summary and move on. The journalist who wrote the story gets nothing. The publication that funded the journalism gets nothing. Google, sitting in the middle, continues to serve ads around its AI-generated summary and collects its revenue as normal. HubSpot, one of the most respected marketing companies in the world, with a website that has dominated Google search rankings for years, reported a 70 to 80% decline in organic traffic. 70 to 80%? Gone. Not because their content got worse, not because they violated any rules, but because Google's AI now answers the questions that used to send people to their site. Systrix, the search analytics company, ran the numbers across thousands of keywords and found that click-through rates for the number one position in Google search, the very top result, the most coveted spot in all of digital marketing, dropped from 27% to 11%. Being number one on Google used to mean something. Now it means you might get 11 clicks out of every 100 searchers. The other 89 stay inside Google's ecosystem and never reach your page at all. And then there is the icon redesign, because Google didn't just change how search works, they changed how everything looks. On May 18th, literally the day before Google I/O, Google rolled out new icons across its entire workspace suite. Gmail, Drive, Docs, Sheets, Slides, Calendar, Meet, Chat, Keep, Forms, Tasks, Voice, every single app. All of them redesigned with a new, softer, glassier, gradient aesthetic that perfectly matches the visual language of Gemini, Google's AI platform. Rounder shapes, blended colors, a visual that screams AI is now in everything we make. And the timing, on the day before the conference, was absolutely deliberate. This was the visual announcement before the verbal one. Google was putting a new face on its entire empire to signal a single message. Everything is AI now, whether you like it or not. The backlash was immediate and ferocious. Technology commentators, creators, and industry figures exploded across social media. Linus Sebastian at Linus Tech Tips, one of the most watched tech channels on the internet, covered the announcements, and the reaction was electric. Millions of viewers sharing the same feeling. Something fundamental has shifted, something important has been lost, and Google made this decision for all of us without asking a single question. Critics argued that Google's AI-powered search doesn't just reduce clicks, it erases the economic foundation of the open web. When a user searches for best running shoes for flat feet, and Google's AI generates a comprehensive, detailed answer pulled from a dozen running blogs and shoe review sites, those bloggers who spent hours testing shoes, photographing them, writing honest reviews, they get zero traffic, zero revenue, zero acknowledgement. Google takes their expertise, their time, their effort, and serves it up to users, while those creators are left wondering why their analytics are collapsing. And here is the part that makes people genuinely angry. Google is still making money, enormous amounts of money. The AI-generated answers appear on the same page as Google's advertisements. The user reads the AI answer, sees the ads, maybe clicks an ad. Google earns revenue. The publishers whose content powered that AI answer, they get nothing. One analyst framed it perfectly. Your content was used to build the response, your brand is invisible, and the value has been extracted without giving anything back. Google calls this organizing the world's information. Publishers call it something far less polite. The health and wellness publishing sector has been hit especially hard. In the first 3 months of 2026, links to articles and health sections on major news websites were displaced by Google's AI overviews 72% of the time. If you run a health website, a carefully researched, medically reviewed, genuinely useful health website, there's a 72% chance that when someone searches for the topic you wrote about, Google's AI answer appears instead of your link. Your content may have literally powered that AI answer. Your expertise may have informed it, but the person searching will never know you exist. Educational platforms have been devastated. Chegg, a company built around helping students learn, has faced catastrophic decline as AI overviews take over the educational queries that used to send students to their platform. The question is no longer, will AI-powered search hurt publishers? The question is, which publishers will survive? Regulatory bodies around the world are paying close attention, and some are already acting. The European Commission published new measures under the Digital Markets Act requiring Google to share anonymized search data with rival search engines and AI providers with a compliance deadline of July 27, 2026. The concern is simple. The more Google's search looks like a self-contained AI application that never sends users anywhere else, the more it starts to look like an illegal monopoly using its dominance in one market to crush competition in another. The UK's Competition and Markets Authority proposed new rules requiring Google to give publishers effective opt-out controls, meaning publishers would have the legal right to tell Google, "Do not use my content in your AI answers." Google's response was carefully worded. They said they are exploring updates to allow opt-outs, not that they are implementing them, not that they will definitely happen, just that they are exploring. Meanwhile, Cloudflare and Google are reportedly in discussions about building authentication frameworks for AI agents, essentially a system where websites can verify whether they are being accessed by a human or by an AI crawler and potentially charge or block the AI accordingly. This is the nascent beginning of what could become a full-blown war between website owners and AI companies over who owns the right to use web content to power AI answers. And it is not just publishers who are worried. Ordinary users are beginning to feel uncomfortable with another element of what Google announced at I/O 2026. Because the new search doesn't just answer your questions, it knows you. Deeply, intimately, comprehensively. Google announced the global expansion of something called personal intelligence. This feature connects your Gmail, your Google Photos, your YouTube watch history, and your entire Google search history to the AI that powers your search results. Not for a small group of paid subscribers, for users in nearly 200 countries, without requiring a subscription for most features, which means that the same AI generating your search answers knows what emails you've sent, what photos you've taken, what videos you've watched, and what you've searched for across years and years of activity. The implication is that Google's AI can now personalize answers based on an extraordinarily detailed picture of who you are. On one level, that sounds useful. On another level, a level that a growing number of people are deeply uncomfortable with, it means that Google knows more about you than most of your friends. And it is using that knowledge to shape every piece of information you receive through the most used information discovery tool on the planet. When the company that controls what information you see also controls a detailed psychological profile of who you are, the question of editorial independence, filter bubbles, and information manipulation becomes far more serious than most people have stopped to consider. And yet, even with all of this, the zero-click tsunami, the publisher meltdown, the privacy implications, the regulatory battles, there are people who genuinely, honestly believe that what Google is doing is the right thing. And their argument deserves to be heard. The reality is that most people were not clicking very efficiently in the old system either. How many times have you searched for something, clicked 3 or 4 different links, skimmed each one looking for the actual answer, buried under paragraphs of SEO padding and banner ads, and eventually found what you needed 20 frustrating minutes later? The honest answer for most of us is constantly. The old web was not a paradise of clean, useful information. A huge amount of it was noise, content created not to genuinely help people, but to rank on Google and generate ad revenue. If AI answers cut through that noise and give people accurate, useful information faster, is that actually bad? From a pure user experience standpoint, the case for AI search is genuinely strong. The counter-argument, of course, is that the noise existed alongside genuine quality. And the same AI system that eliminates useless SEO-padded content also eliminates the brilliant independent blogger who spent 3 years reviewing every pair of running shoes ever made. It doesn't discriminate between the junk and the gem. It just absorbs everything, summarizes everything, and sends traffic to no one. The creators who are suffering most are not the content farms. Content farms will adapt. They always do. The ones suffering most are the passionate independents, the person who built a website around their genuine expertise, the journalist who spent a week on a single investigative piece, the small business whose website was their primary way of being discovered by new customers. These are the people that the web economy was supposed to protect and reward. And these are the people being wiped out the fastest. Pew Research data from 2025 found that when an AI summary appears in Google search, 26% of users end their entire browsing session. They got what they needed. They closed the tab. They never visit a website. For a quarter of all AI-assisted searches, the web effectively ceases to exist beyond Google's results page. Some in the industry are calling this Google Zero, a future state where referral traffic from Google search collapses to near zero for the majority of websites. And the terrifying thing is that the data suggests it may not be a future state at all. For many publishers, it is already the present. 50% of media companies have already reported a measurable drop in search-driven traffic. Not a projection, not a forecast. Already happened, already real. Already eating into revenues, already forcing newsrooms to cut staff, already making independent content creation economically unviable for thousands of people. And with Google's information agents, those autonomous AI crawlers that will continuously monitor the web on users' behalf without those users ever needing to visit a website, the trend is only going to accelerate. When 1 billion Google users have personal AI agents doing their browsing for them, the human web doesn't disappear, but it becomes something entirely different. A data source for AI rather than a destination for people, So what happens now? Where does this go? The regulatory battles will intensify. The EU's July 2026 deadline for data sharing compliance is a starting gun, not a finish line. Antitrust cases are being watched carefully across multiple jurisdictions. Publishers are organizing. Some are blocking Google's AI crawlers entirely. Some are lobbying governments. Some are exploring legal action around the use of their content to train AI systems without compensation. And users are making quiet choices. DuckDuckGo has reported meaningful increases in traffic since Google's I/O announcements. Perplexity, the AI-powered search startup, is growing fast. Even Bing, Microsoft's long-suffering search engine, is attracting users who want an alternative. But the uncomfortable truth is that none of Google's competitors yet have Google's scale. Google was the world's most visited website in 2025, recording approximately 240 billion visits. No other search engine comes close. Breaking that dominance, or even meaningfully denting it, is an enormous challenge, even with the most justified grievances in the world. Google knows this, and that knowledge, perhaps more than anything else, is what makes the I/O 2026 announcements feel so bold, so confident, so unapologetic. They have 1 billion people using AI mode. They have 2.5 billion people using AI overviews. They have Gemini embedded in every product from Gmail to Google Photos. They have the data of billions of users feeding their AI systems every single day, making those systems smarter, more personalized, and harder to compete with every single hour. And at I/O 2026, they showed the world that they are not slowing down. They are accelerating. The new search is not a beta experiment, it is the product. The icon redesign is not a cosmetic update. It is a declaration of identity. This is what Google is now, an AI company that uses the web as raw material, rather than a search company that helps you navigate it. Whether you think that is progress or predation depends on who you are. If you're a user who wants faster answers, Google I/O 2026 was genuinely impressive. If you are a publisher, a creator, a journalist, or a small business owner whose livelihood depends on people discovering your work through search, it was something closer to a funeral announcement. The web that billions of people built, link by link, article by article, website by website, over 30 years is not dying overnight. But the economic model that made it worth building is fracturing, and the cracks are widening faster than most people realize. This is not just a story about Google. It is a story about who gets to control information, who gets to decide what you see, what you read, and what you know, and whether the open, decentralized, human-powered internet that changed the world can survive the age of AI, or whether it quietly becomes the training data for a smarter, faster, more centralized system that renders the original obsolete. Google's most hated announcement ever was not hateable because it was clumsy or dishonest. It was hateable because it was confident, because it was well-planned, because it was inevitable-looking, because it showed the world a future that is already arriving, built by the most powerful company in the history of information, and it offered almost no apology and almost no alternative to the people who will be hurt most by what comes next. The search bar is gone, the agent is here, and the internet will never be quite the same again.